communication is essential in running a business. Many of you might run a business as a married couple. Today's guest really walk us through the ups and downs of a husband and wife starting, running, and leading a business every day. Don't miss today.
We started looking at consumer good categories, and we were looking specifically for something that was staid, that lacked innovation.
And I remember the first prototype arrived, and I opened the box, and I was just wowed by it. I was like, I'll handle sales for the business, and let's go do this.
Somehow we're still married, and we still really like each other. The fact that we're doing it together is something that I'm super grateful and we feel super blessed for. I think if we're really being honest with ourselves, we're still a discovery brand 10 years in. We have a lot of work to do. I mean, there's so much runway in front of us and so much scale, and we just have to go seize it.
Welcome to Decision Points. I'm Doug Hudson.
I'm Scott Wood.
And we are fired up for today. Our guests are Jeremy and Lila Stewart, co-founders of Hari Mari. And the first thing I noticed is Hari Mari has expanded from flip-flops.
We have quite a bit.
So we got some boots rolling today. I love it.
We couldn't come empty-handed. We had to bring you something that was, germane to talk about when it's a little cooler outside.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, you want to come again in the spring and then bring us some flip-flops too?
Absolutely.
We'll take all the free gifts we can get.
Absolutely.
Welcome. Glad you guys are here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. How we doing? What's going on in your all's world?
Where do we begin?
Yeah, just start. What's good? What's bad? What's
Well, I'll start with some good.
Yeah.
We just wrapped up our pre-booking season for next year.
So cool.
So we go to market from June through the end of August and
Okay.
collect retail orders for the upcoming season. And it's a pretty successful one, which is exciting, and have some 3 very specific retailers that have been on our hit list since we launched, coming on board for next year.
Got 'em.
We got them.
Congrats.
That's great.
So it'd be Dillard's and NextWeb and APHIS, which is the Army and Navy, and getting into their stores across the globe.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Congrats on all those. Yeah. And obviously Dillard's has got to be, they're all significant, but certainly Dillard's we know a lot about.
Well, they're known for good footwear, so we're thankful to be a part of their assortment.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. All right. Let's start. Jeremy, where are you from?
I'm from here, from Dallas.
All right.
Born and raised. We both are. Luckily, we didn't know each other until well after college, because we always talk.
Tends to be a common story.
Because we agree that we probably would not have liked each other in our previous, selves.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're both from Dallas.
The pre-brain development stage.
Exactly.
Lila may not have been
A fan.
She told me when we first met, she likes meatheads, but she's like, I probably wouldn't have liked you as much of a meathead as you were.
I'm so glad we're sharing
You were
this.
the poster child for meatheads.
That's right.
I needed just shy of the Wikipedia image of meathead. All right, where'd you go to high school?
Highland Park,
All right. What elementary?
St. Michael's.
Okay, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Scott's family is there, and our kids did a few years. We had all 3 go through Bradfield Elementary here in
Nice.
Dallas. So good stuff. Well, you mentioned it. Where and how did you meet?
Luckily through friends. Our best friends were dating at the time, and they set us up on a blind date. And our first blind date was at I don't know what it's called now, but it was called the Corner Bar on Monticello and 75.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we awkwardly arrived with kind of 10, 15 friends each, and they all sat in a room like a bull in a ring and watched us try to figure
Seriously?
out if we
Super
liked
awkward.
each other. Yeah.
They were all there, and you knew they were there.
This was an event. Like y'all were set up and everybody was there
Yeah,
because
it was a fishbowl. It was a fishbowl. And in the night ended up, I tried to kiss Lila and accidentally headbutted her, and somehow we...
And you proved you were a meathead. You were a meathead.
Somehow, yeah, I proved it. And so, yeah.
I have never heard that in my entire life, that you all had an audience. Incredible. Did they give you all reports? Did they film it and give you a report? Lila, you did great here. Jeremy.
play by play.
No, it was so awkward. Everyone was just staring at us all night. So finally we left and went into a different room so we could actually talk. But it all worked out well. That was 20 years ago?
What, you in college, post-college? What's...
Post-college. So this was 2004. So, 3 or 4 years removed from college. And it was strange because we had so many people that we knew in each other's circles, but we just had never met.
Yeah, kind of 1 degree of separation.
1 degree.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy grew up in the house catty cornered from my godparents, and I lived over there, and we never met until after college. So meant to be.
Well,
The timing was right.
Clearly, you've established. They said your godparents said, "Stay away from that house and that kid."
Big time.
Are you guys the same grade year, same age?
No, I'm 2 years older than Lila.
Okay.
I graduated in 97. And she
Okay, well, that's
graduated
part of the reason they kept you away.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
100%. They were good godparents.
So where did you guys go to school?
University of Arizona.
Okay.
I went to Vanderbilt.
Okay. Great. And then back to Dallas post graduation.
For a short bit.
Yeah.
And then Austin, a brief stint in Austin.
The two of y'all. So you get married.
Nope.
No.
Dating.
Okay. Dating. You go to Austin.
Moved to Austin together for Jeremy to go to business school.
Okay.
That lasted a year. And then an opportunity arose for us to move to Jakarta, Indonesia.
What was the opportunity?
Yeah, so I'd essentially been in politics here. I graduated in 2001. The bubble had just burst. I moved back to Dallas. I was living with my parents, trying to find a job. No one would hire college graduates at the time. And they were laying off people with, 30 years of experience. And I know you all have seen your fair share of that similar type of scenario. So I wanted to get into real estate, wanted to get into real estate finance. And I mean,
there was nothing.
Nothing. And so a friend called me up and she said, "Hey, look, I'm interning for this political consulting shop, and there's another shop upstairs from us that's looking for interns too. You want to come interview for it? Hopefully you get it." And so the internship was putting together desk furniture. So that was my start.
That's commercial real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is a legitimate internship. Yes.
So that was my first political consulting job, was putting together furniture for the office. And so I was fortunate enough that we got in a shop, in a full-time capacity here, and we were working on local races. And super fortunate that I got in underneath a guy, his name's Rob Allen, who was my mentor, and he had just helped Vicente Fox get elected president of Mexico in 2001. And so came in right after that, and we started making trips down there and doing a lot of kind of post-electorate stuff. And we got caught on with his soon-to-be successor, Felipe Calderon, who ran in 2005. And then at that time, I said, I really would like to go to business school and see what that's like. And couldn't be more supportive. He said, "I'll write your, the testimonial to get you in there." And he did. He wrote a fantastic, 2-page testimonial and got in. And so Lila and I, moved to Austin. And a year into it, he called me back and said, "Okay, we got another race. We got another race. Would you be
the real education is with me right now?"
Absolutely. Would you be interested in starting a new business together and moving to Indonesia to do it? And I said, "I'd have to look at a map because I don't know where that
Heard
is."
of it.
Heard of it.
Yeah.
Appreciate the honesty too. Exactly.
Yeah. So that was it. And so I, went to the room, and after I told him, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, let's do it." Because I just knew that those opportunities don't come along very often.
Right.
100%.
And I went into the next room. I said, "Lila, I'm going to Indonesia." And she said, "Jeremy, goodbye."
Seriously?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Incredible. Well, obviously, you're here today.
Okay, so
Yes.
hold on, go back. I want to bring us up current for your part of the story, Lila, and then let's talk about what happens next.
So I had always wanted to work in the music business.
Okay.
And so I had an opportunity. At the same time, he was presented with that opportunity to work for AEG Live in sales and marketing. And it was something that I always wanted to do. So while Jeremy went off to Indonesia to pursue that, I moved back to Dallas and started working for my mentor and boss, this man who I love, Larry Fontana, and had an incredible time doing so. And so while I loved Jeremy, we were just dating. I was like, I'm not moving literally halfway across the world for a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll see you later and good luck and have fun. And I came back home and loved what I was doing. And that was that.
And where did y'all like break up at that point?
Yeah.
Or were you kind of like, well, okay, we're going to see if we can keep it going? And
No,
it was,
Y'all broke up.
it
we
was,
were done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then someone came crawling back with a ring, basically.
That's also a true story.
Well, that's a really hard decision though,
100%.
I mean, obviously it's a great opportunity. Obviously you love this woman because you were now married to her. And so really tough to like just pick up and go.
Yeah, especially after, putting yourself through the first year of business school. I mean, took out all the student loans to do it. And I just remember telling my parents, like, yeah, I'm taking off. Oh yeah, and by the way, Lila and I are breaking up. And like, there's kind of like the sideways head cock. Like, I don't know that you're making the right decision.
Yeah. And you're how old?
Gosh, 24, 25.
Yeah. So the brain is getting close to being fully developed, but not quite.
No,
right.
It maybe took a little longer in my case. But so they said, okay, well, go figure it out.
Yeah.
But I had this kind of security blanket in my mentor, and this guy just incredible, and did help me through all my career to that point. I said, what he does is I'm just going to follow, and I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to go jump in and do it, and where the opportunity takes us, it'll take us. So dropped out of business school and said, okay, what's next?
And when you left, when you left, did you know you would come back to Lila? That was a real question mark at that point.
I thought the chapter was closed, to be honest.
Really?
Personally, yeah. And I think she did too. And so we moved on, and we probably didn't talk for 6 or 9 months.
Okay.
And so I was over there, and absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
And I started trying to call her again, and a lot of voicemails.
Appropriately so.
Yeah, appropriately so.
Yeah.
And I kind of, looking back on it, it probably was absolutely so. And then, I'd visit every now and then back to Dallas from Indonesia and call her up and see if we could get together. And I think one time she just said yes. And that was kind of, I was like, the door's open.
Just a little crack. Just a little crack.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah.
What changed? Did you move back at that point? Yeah. Or what changed?
I think his persistency, not a whole lot changed on my end. I wanted to be supportive of what he was doing because it was an incredible opportunity. And there's a part of me that felt like if I was pretending to be interested still, or we tried to make it work, it would be a deterrent for him, but also for what I was trying to do professionally. So, and it's not that when we parted ways, there was any sort of animosity towards each other.
I love that. I appreciate it. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, there was a level of respect that was always still there.
And very mature, too.
Yeah.
Very mature.
I don't know about that, but...
No, it was. Y'all didn't... Yeah.
We just felt like it was the right thing to do, is support each other's goals professionally, and that's what we were doing, but we still obviously cared about each other. So he wore me down eventually, and here we are.
That's good.
So keep going there. So you come back occasionally, but 6 or 9 months you start talking...
Yeah.
Walk us through the next chapter.
So the initial conversations turn into, I'd like to date you again, like to see you again. That's not possible because you're halfway across the world. Okay, well, what if you join me halfway across the world, not leaving my job? You're crazy. Those conversations, I mean, it was our phone bills were ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was, back when you were being charged for minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it got to the point where I was coming back home, and she had questioned, how serious I was about this, and we took a vacation together, and I gave her a promise ring to. And I'm not sure they even do that anymore. Do they give do people even give?
I think
I think
you can. Yeah, I think you can.
That's a really nice
strict rules, but I think it sounds like it worked. The intent was there was a commitment before a commitment.
That's right.
I guess.
It was a pre-commitment, and so and she said she eventually said yes. So she came to visit, and I'll never forget this. We had a client. So our client in Indonesia, he was an energy mogul, and his brother was running for president of Indonesia, and he had, incredibly sharp guy, like one of the sharpest guys I think I've ever met. And he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I hear that you're bringing your girlfriend to Indonesia," and he knew I was going to propose formally to her. That was kind of the idea, is that she was going to come into Jakarta, which is this massive a city, 14 million people. 80% of the population lives below the poverty line. On less than $1 a day.
Yeah,
poverty stricken like you've never seen before. Incredibly beautiful in certain respects, but he's like, "I'm just gonna be realistic with you. I know you're gonna take her to Bali because that's the prettier place, right?"
Right.
He's like, let me just give you a little bit of advice if you're willing to take it." I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Fly her in under the cover of darkness. Take her immediately to there's a Rosewood Hotel there in Jakarta. It's like the 5 acres of heaven in the middle of Jakarta, in the middle of this like, very tough place to live. And then when she was going to stay for a night or two, and he's like, stay there, and then when you're ready to go to Bali, just make sure you have a night flight to Bali, and then that way, it's she kind of never really sees what's going on, and so absolutely, that's a great idea, and so we did that, and so we got engaged. She flew immediately out from Bali back to the U.S., and then her first time back into Indonesia,
the real world.
Married.
He tricked me.
And she said, "What is this?" So that was that's kind of how we went from being broken up to slightly talking to being engaged, and now her moving to Jakarta, and that was in 2007 or 2008.
So Lila, you left your job.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
And
I loved it.
And then what were you doing in Jakarta?
Well, I actually wasn't
working?
allowed to get a work visa.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting on the board for the American Women's Association. There were maybe 200 U.S. families there, primarily working for oil companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the women joined this organization to try and do a little good while we were there.
Yeah.
So I spent my time fundraising and getting donations for kids in orphanages in and around Jakarta. It's a pretty wild experience.
I bet. What are some of your takeaways from that, Lila?
I think primarily just a level of perspective that I never had before that I'll carry with me forever, seeing that kind of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Frustration too, because we would go and we would take like truckloads of mattresses and goods to these kids, and then we'd go back like 2 or 3 weeks later and it was all gone. The head of the adoption or the head of the facility would sell it or take off with it. So just very different world from what we all experience here in the US. So I look back, and while it was really challenging being there, Jeremy was working on the campaign probably 8 days a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It was challenging at the time, but it was also the most incredible experience I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
Having that kind of, the ability to travel and seeing that part of the world, and it was definitely life-changing.
You're newly married, but you're really not spending much time,
Sure.
which in some ways is fairly common. I certainly, when you get married, you're young and you're trying to build those careers, but you're in a foreign country, and you were there maybe a year to get acclimated. So, I'm sure a lot of things were hard lessons were learned that give you a perspective for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, I mean, the language is different, culture is completely different, religion's different.
Yeah,
there's nothing that reminds
Felt
you of
familiar.
home, right?
Yeah.
But I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So how long were you guys there? You were there 1 year longer, but how long were y'all there total?
I was there 4 years, and I think Lyle was there 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we ended up moving back in 2010. Campaign had finished. Actually, we we had a difference of opinion on what we were going to do next when the campaign ended. I wanted to stay on, and I wanted to. I mean, the opportunities we were finding over there were incredible.
Yep.
And we were kind of broadened our horizons beyond just political campaigns. I mean, we were running campaigns. We were kind of the media guys. So we would go in, we'd, message test, research, figure out, what the hot button kitchen table issues were. And then we'd take all that information, and then we'd write all the scripts for all the TV, radio, and print ads. And then we'd kind of produce all those and then put them up on air. And if we were doing our jobs correctly, we see the kind of the needle move in our candidates' favor. And so we started doing the same thing for businesses in Southeast Asia. And then we got into film production, and we produced a series of we produced one documentary about hunger and malnutrition and how it affects children in Southeast Asia. And then we produced a series of war films. It was kind of a fictional war film about how Indonesia gains independence from the Dutch post World War II, and it was fascinating stuff, and stuff that never would have happened here had I stayed.
Yeah.
And had we stayed. And so, but Lila was on this island, and it was a very tough time. I mean, you hit it like perfectly on the head. Like, we were just married.
Yeah.
And Lila jokes, like, but she's kind of serious and truthful. Like, we didn't see each other for a couple of years.
Yeah.
When we were first married.
Yep.
And it really strained our relationship.
Well, I was going to say that's hard when you're newly married, because that's the time where you're creating connection, and these first couple of years, and you're kind of like, this is, you probably felt this way, maybe not, but I didn't sign up for this, right?
Sure,
At some point, you know?
And there was also a part of me too, if I'm being really honest, that I felt like I had left a really lucrative career.
Yes.
To be there in support of him and what he was doing. And so to go from having a job that you love and on this kind of growth trajectory to not being able to work at all, that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. A bit of a loss of identity for you too. Probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're watching Jeremy take off and full and like, you know, adrenaline and exciting and all and you're kind of like, okay, yeah, I get it.
When are we going home?
Yeah.
When are we going home?
Yeah.
And I just want to applaud you and thank you for the courage and honesty. At Decision Points, we know many of the business owners look just like y'all. Yeah. Husband, wives, family. So the honesty through the journey, the difficulty, you making decisions together, that sometimes one supporting more than the other, it feels like. So, okay. So what I heard there is you're there total about 4 years. You decided to come back, but that was not an easy decision. Walk us through how you ended up coming back.
No, in fact, so I remember that I had the promise and the commitment that Lila had always made was that I will be here through the end of the campaign. And somehow over a year or two, for me, that kind of morphed into we're just here as long as, you know, the ride takes us. Mm-hmm. And so when the campaign ended, it was almost like, okay, when are we going back? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right, because the business is growing for you. You're fulfilled. Or it's going. But the commitment was the campaign.
Right. And so when kind of the bill came due, Lila's like, I'm going home. Like I'm out. And, you know, she wanted to come back and start her career. She basically said, like, I made this commitment to you, to us. And once it's done, I want to go restart my professional life. And I just didn't hear it. You know, it was one of those things that whether it was consciously or just, I just chose to ignore it. I don't know, probably the latter. But when we were done, she was like, I'm leaving and I hope you're coming with me. And I really fought it. I really did. And so she left, and for 2 weeks, she's like, I'm going home. And she called me. She's like, I'm not coming back. Either you're coming here or, you know, we're done. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'll be on the next flight.
In his defense, though,
she called my bluff.
Yeah, in his defense, the opportunities that were being presented to him were pretty incredible, right? Yeah. And so it was
hard to leave
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. But I had felt like I had, you know, honored my commitment and. But I also think what the big red flag literally was we went to Hanoi at the end of the election while they were counting votes. And we're sitting in our hotel. We wake up in the morning, turn on the news, and terrorists had blown up 3 restaurants within a quarter of a mile of our apartment, targeting Boulets, expats.
Yeah.
And I look at Jeremy, I'm like, that's our cue.
Yeah.
Like they were targeting us essentially. Like it's time. We've paid your dues. You know, you had this incredible experience. Let's go start a family. Let's go home. Let's get out of here. And kind of hard to argue with when terrorists are involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
well, I applaud you guys because you did some really hard things early that, you know, really creates a strong foundation for your marriage. And Lila, your ability to communicate and be direct and be like, this is what I need. And to stay with that, you know, is really admirable.
And put actions with that.
Yeah.
And I love you, but I'm leaving on this date. And I hope you're with me.
You guys may not know this, but Doug was a minister in his background, and so he's counseled lots of couples, and he actually married Alicia and me.
Oh wow,
28 years ago, and so he's got a lot in it. So there's a lot going on here with him too. So
when we turn the cameras, that's a real no, it was yes. That's why I just applaud the openness, because again, my wife Carrie and I, we ran a business together. She and my daughter run a business now. So
and even
when you live with the people that you're making also other difficult decisions, I just know that this is a lot of who our audience is. So you all just being open, the boundaries, the commitments, the because you are still here.
Yeah.
And that's, we've both been married 28 years. I mean, we understand there are hard decisions in this. And when you put money and business and careers and teams that you got to hire and fire, and then you got to go home and process all that together, this is the life that you all live.
Mm-hmm.
So your all's transparency in this process is going to help a lot of people.
Well,
May not be why you thought you came here today. We didn't know we were going to get into this. So thank you for the transparency.
Well, and in a few minutes when we get into Hari Mari, like, I'm already, I've got your personalities now a little bit, so it'll be fun to see how that manifests inside the business. So we'll go there in a few minutes.
He's the personality expert. It's a little bit like that blind date. Starting to feel like that blind date, didn't it? We just have a lot of cameras here. So
All right. So you make this. We're moving.
Mm-hmm.
You guys obviously move back. So you sell the business, Jeremy, and you just go to your mentor, co-founder, and just say,
Sorry,
gotta go.
Sorry, gotta go.
And he buys you out.
Yeah,
yeah.
They were on to their next project, and sorry, this is it, and I gotta prioritize my wife and move back. And she made this commitment, and it was a really, really tough period for me and for us too. I mean, it's not just me, but it was one of those things, and I really relate with your conversation with Russell Moon, because after he said he sold his business, he lost a big piece of identity.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a piece of it, but there was also this piece of it where I feel like I had to sell the business, or I had to sell it to my partner, and I was being forced to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked through this thing for for a year. When we got back, I didn't work. She went back to work for her old boss and her old position, and I didn't work, and I just worked on me for a bit, because it was I had a lot of resentment that we moved back, and was kind of at this apex, I felt like, in a really young age. And I think it was 29 at the time, 30 at the time, and it just felt like I had to kind of give it up and walk away. And so it was kind of like, not just what's next, that really didn't even factor in the equation yet. It was kind of like, I got to go back and process that, because I felt like I just walked away from something that was something you would dream about in a professional capacity. And then but knowing that there's bigger things to come.
Right.
And that was really tough to kind of understand. And it's funny now, because I look back, I look at our kids, I look at our marriage, I look at Hari Mari, and it's just like, doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
Just so inconsequential.
You wouldn't trade it, right?
Oh, God.
But when you're in the fire, when you're in the moment, though, that's the hardest part, is perspective, right? Because all you see is just the flames and the anger or the resentment or whatever it is, the difficulty. But perspective generally comes at a fairly high cost. I want to ask real quick, you said you worked on yourself, because did you see somebody?
Oh,
Did you have, good for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a counselor together. I had a counselor on my own. I mean, we did a lot.
Good.
Yeah, that's
we
great.
did a lot of work, and it took, it took a year and a half, something like that, for us to finally kind of get through it. And I think once we were finally able to kind of work through some of the challenges, like, I think it actually became my biggest takeaway is it's just constructive communication, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
So good.
and it's like, if you can figure out how to constructively communicate with not just your significant other, but your family, your friends, your colleagues, that's like 90% of it, at least it was for me, because I didn't know how to constructively communicate my feelings or what was going on and my thoughts without, projecting anger or fear or whatever it might have been. So it was a big piece.
I think it was also a gift, because we learned the tools to be able to communicate effectively, which we now have because we use at Hari Mari.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Running a business together, and it's huge.
Communication has to be good. Like, you guys have to be in sync.
Yep.
Yeah.
At True North, we use an operating system called EOS.
Yeah.
And I don't know if y'all familiar with it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about it is, as leaders, the hardest thing to do is to raise your hand and say, I need help.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you actually show your strength to say, hey, I know this to the left, but I don't know here to the right. You ask for help. And that's how community, I didn't know you couldn't do that. You have a good conversation. So both personally and professionally, you bring all of those tools into your home and your business.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you guys use EOS just as a?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not yet. Okay.
We're big fans. Obviously, there's
Yeah.
other ones, but I've told Scott this before. I didn't get it till 4 or 5 years ago in another business. I had a business for about 28 years, and man, do I wish I had it, because it wasn't like I didn't know most of those things, but I had no structure.
Mm-hmm.
I had no platform in which to guide the organization down these tools. And then there's a book called 5 Dysfunctions of a Team that often is used as the soft skills to go along with kind of the tactical skills of EOS. So proud of you guys and what you're learning. And so you sell the business, you're back home, you're back engaged with your career. I heard kids. Tell us about the kids.
So we had Aiden. What year was that? She was actually born on my 28th birthday, 2011. And we were also Jeremy had all these different ideas of businesses that he wanted to start when we moved back.
Yeah.
I look back at some of them and they're
God awful.
pretty comical.
Hey, you got to swing to get it hit though. You got to keep swinging.
We had actually, I'll let you tell the story because I think that you talking about how you settled on flip-flops ultimately. Yeah, we were doing R&D and throughout my pregnancy with Aiden. And she was born when she was 6 months old when we launched Hari Mari.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, Lila we always joke, but it's kind of true. I mean, she had a sales background, so we kind of knew early on we were going to divide responsibilities.
Yep.
And actually, one of the things we learned in Indonesia is because she had no idea what I was doing for all hours of the day. And
Right.
I just come home at night, spent, fall asleep,
Yeah.
go back out the door the next morning. When we started working together, it didn't matter if we were in the same pattern. It wasn't the exact same, but it didn't matter if that was the work hours, because she knew exactly what I was working on. I knew exactly what she was working on. And she raised her hand very early and said, like, I have a sales background. Let me tackle sales.
Let me do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because again, those now hours were spent together as opposed to apart. So, but Aiden, how old is Aiden now?
She just turned 12. And
Awesome.
then we also have a son named Callan who just turned 8.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. What are they into?
Everything. Lots of sports, which is fun because Jeremy and I enjoy that. They're great.
That's awesome.
We're really enjoying them.
That's awesome.
So she would go around to retailers, and she first started making loops around Texas to all of our retailers, and she was pregnant. And we still don't know whether the retailers felt sorry for her because she was, 6, 7, 8 months pregnant, selling flip-flops.
And who's her husband sending her out here on the dang road to go sell flip-flops in 100-degree heat?
That too. That too. And that was that summer of 2011, which was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the summer we had 100 days. Of
Oh,
work.
yes.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
complain about this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
But I love what Lila said. So how did you all land on, let's go. How did we land on Hari Mari and flip-flops, the name?
Yep.
Walk us through the journey.
So,
but I did want to hear a couple of the bad ideas before Hari Mari.
gosh.
Well, because I was pregnant, one of them was a pregnancy workout video. Like that's really bad.
Which we actually took pretty far. We started filming and we kind of realized.
Where's the footage?
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully in the garbage somewhere.
That was an easy one for you though, because of your background
Yeah,
at
it was
that
just
point.
production, and then we were gonna sell it on a infomercial, and all the pregnant mothers would.
You already have the star of the show right here at the house.
That's right. Testimonials were abound. So
Season 2 was going to be hard though, because you're going to have to produce. Lila was going to have to be pregnant again, right?
That's right.
And then again, and
That's
again,
right.
yeah,
with twins, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. So it complicated it a little bit. So we why flip flops? We looked at a lot of consumer goods. First of all, we knew that the political consulting package, that tactical kind of communication skill set, could be applied to consumer goods.
Mhm.
That's interesting.
Politicians are just walking consumer goods.
That's so
how
well said,
That's how
yeah.
we look at them now, right? You pick the best one possible,
Yep.
and you dress them up. You attach messages to them. You put them in the right distribution avenues. You put some modest marketing behind them, and if you do it, okay. If you do it semi well, then you have success. It's not a magic bullet, and so we did a little bit of that in Southeast Asia. We knew that it worked for consumer goods, and we knew it also forced you to be really thoughtful and methodic about the consumer good. And so we started looking at consumer good categories, and we were looking specifically for something that was staid, that lacked innovation, that could do with a little bit of, fluffing up, and that just needed something new. And so we wore flip-flops, and we're avid flip-flop wearers, but it really wasn't born out of just passion for flip-flops. It was really born out of just looking at the category and saying, okay, like who are the players? And you had all these brands that were kind of 30, 40, 50 years old.
Yep.
Without anything new or novel since.
It's a flip-flop.
It's a flip-flop and been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so it's basically like, okay, so we're not recreating the pizza. We're just putting different toppings on it. What are those toppings going to be? And we were surprised of the market size. It's a huge, flip-flops and sandals are a $26 billion market globally, and about 16 of that's here in the US. And the market share leader is this giant behemoth out of Brazil called Havaianas, but they're owned by Alpargatas as their parent company. And they do 10% they do 10% globally, 10% here domestically. And so it's highly, highly fragmented.
Man, it is.
And it was rife for a new entrant. And you just got to like bring something different to the table. So I started going around to college campuses here in Dallas and handing out flyers for focus groups for, $50 and free pizza. Come go to a focus group. And I hired a buddy to moderate. And so we rented a little place, off of the toll road in LBJ, and I just sat behind the glass for 3 days and just listened to what people said about flip-flops and sandals. And really the core takeaways.
So you haven't decided on the flip-flops yet. You've got it narrowed. So this is before you form the company, so to speak. You're literally focus grouping. This is absolutely your political background.
Yeah.
So it's helping shape which business you're going to start. So market research, you all did that incredibly well.
It forces you to be disciplined, right? Just taking the campaign approach.
And taking some subjectivity out of the process, thinking, I just know what the next big thing is.
Right.
You went in there, okay, keep going. This is awesome.
So what is that different thing going to be? Like, what are those little different pieces? What are the different toppings? And so first, the takeaways, and really the takeaways serve as the tenets of the foundation of the brand.
What were they?
And they're that America's on this ever-ceasing trend towards casual. And we thought that, it's not hard to know. even 12 years ago when we started the business, you look at what people wear to work then and versus what they were wearing to work 30, 40 years previous. Yep. Suits and ties are gone, and it was replaced with something else and something more casual. And so we started looking at footwear, and especially here in Texas. Mm-hmm. And we looked at all the respondents' feet. They didn't know they were coming for a flip-flop focus group. They just knew they were coming to a focus group. Half of everybody was wearing flip-flops or sandals.
No way.
So we said, okay, look. And granted, it was like in June, so it probably didn't hurt either. But we said, okay, that's really interesting. And so we started doing a little bit, that prompted us to do a little bit of market research on that. And we found out that flip-flops and sandals are the second fastest growing footwear category behind only athletic and running shoes. Mm-hmm. In fact, over the last decade, they only trail athletic shoes in terms of year-over-year growth. So we said, that's really interesting. And number two is we looked at all the flip-flops and sandals. Like when we got back from Indonesia, I wanted to go buy something. I wanted a little bit of color. We went to St. Bernard's and just looking at the wall there, and there was all, brown and black and tan, and that's it. And women had a lot of color options. Guys didn't have anything. So we said, okay, maybe there's something there. Guys like color. So we kind of tested that hypothesis. Like I put some, these like really bad, color pencil drawings and projected them on the wall of flip-flops, and guys liked it. And that reinforced the idea that this was a supply-driven issue, not a demand-driven issue. So I said, okay, if we can add some color for guys specifically, we might have something. And the last, and maybe the most important, is that we hated the break-in period of flip-flops. There's a month, 2 months. We called it, actually, somebody in our focus group called it the war on your toes. And that was for us really interesting because they
blisters, everything
blisters. We said, okay, look, if we can solve that problem or at least like make it more comfortable.
Exactly.
First step, like we might have something. And so we took those things away and really the name Hari Mari too came from the focus groups. We put some, again, talk about bad ideas. We threw some really bad ideas of company brand names out at the very beginning of the focus groups. And 90 minutes later when the focus group ended, we said, okay, look, now, if you'll remember back to the very first, we threw out a few brand names at you. Like, what do you remember of those? And we threw out 5 names, and the only one, and they remembered it consistently, was Hari Mari because it rhymed or whatever it was.
It stuck.
Recall.
Yeah.
How'd y'all come up with it though? What's it mean? Does it mean anything? What does it mean?
Yeah, Hari means of the sun in Indonesian, and Mari means of the sea in Latin, kind of the sea in the Latin. So there's a little bit of meaning behind it.
So Lila, as this is all happening and going on, where are you?
I'm working at AG.
Okay. So
Gotcha.
you're not super engaged with what's going on?
Not
You're
at
kind of
all.
a casual, you're watching it, but you've
Yeah.
got your thing.
Supportive of it,
Yeah, exactly.
but doing my own thing.
And potentially another harebrained idea, and we'll see where it goes. And
But important to mention that I was not fulfilled at all.
in your work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I loved it pre-Indonesia. I did not love it post-Indonesia. I wanted something more. I wanted something philanthropic. I wanted just to be a little bit more passionate.
And tell us what AG is and what you were doing.
AG Live, it's the second largest music promotional firm in the US.
Okay.
So at that point in time, I was head of sales for then Nokia and Palladium Ballroom. But I was also doing more. I mean, I had my hands in quite a few things. But to sum it up briefly, that's what I was doing. And I loved it, before we moved. And so as Jeremy's doing all of these things, we're obviously talking quite a bit about it. And I remember the first prototype arrived. And I opened up the box. I'm a very visual person. So he'd obviously been talking concepts throughout this entire time. And I opened the box, and as weird as it is to say, I was like, oh my gosh, I was just wowed by it. And at that point in time, I was like, all right, I'm in.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And I had a sales background. I was like, I'll handle sales for the business, and let's go do this. So I quit my job for the second time. So I'm pretty sure Larry was kind of upset. But and we've been all in ever since, obviously.
So Jeremy, was that the did you expect that reaction, or were you kind of hoping for that reaction?
I was,
or
I was hoping that she would be interested, just because I wanted to do this together.
Yeah.
And I knew that once she saw it, that would be either the make or break, because she is such a visual person. So yeah, I was incredibly pleased and so excited to do this. And it was like, what's next? And I was like, I don't know.
So, we got one pair.
Yeah, one pair. We got one sample. So that really kicked everything off. And she said, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what this thing will be, but let's do it together.
And that, what year was that again, just to remind us?
2010?
2011, something like that.
Okay.
2010.
So what color were they?
They were white. It's a white hemp footbed with a blue upper strap.
Yeah. Is that your best seller?
Well, we actually don't have it in the line anymore.
No.
We
Is
got-
white the best seller?
No, it was like white ended up being a really bad idea.
It was. Yeah,
It gets dirty,
it gets
right?
dirty. Yeah.
Looks good when it's new.
It looks great when it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our idea with it was to pop on the retailer's walls to
Yeah.
really stick out.
For sure.
Which it did. It does.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then we had to move away from it. It just got too dirty.
Yeah. It was a marketing tool. But yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So pick it up. So you open the box, you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we go from there?
So we started saying, okay, look, how do we solve these issues? I mean, color, easy, right? You just put color in it. How do you solve for the comfort issue? So we hired a engineer who used to work at a brand called Teva, found him online somewhere and said, look, here's what we were trying to achieve. He said, no problem. And he designed this little simple memory foam encased toe piece that goes between your first and second toe. And so he gave us the design. We forwarded it on to our factory at the time and said, look, can you make this? They said, no problem. They sent the samples. We tested it, wore it a bunch, and there was no irritation
Wow.
on your toes whatsoever. And so we said, great, this is it. So, and really funny because that's the day we filed a patent was then, before we even launched.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
But
This was 2011, which we didn't receive that patent for 8 more years.
oh wow.
So
Golly. Isn't that crazy?
I think it's the simplest things are often the hardest to patent, and so, or to place patent on. So it was funny because we were expecting it like, oh yeah, it'll be a year process or 6 months and have this totally solved. So yeah, we started Frankenstein together our footwear and took all of our favorite things about other brands, put it in one flip flop, and then I said bye. I got on a plane to China and I visited 20 factories. I just had pinged people on like Alibaba, like whoever would respond. I just went to visit them and said, look, we have very little in terms of orders. So we know our minimums are going to be really minimum. And I found one factory that was willing to work with us. And I mean, looking back on it now, it's so ridiculously stupid. We our first order was for how many? 25,000?
Mm-hmm.
25,000 units
Wow.
without a single order to offset it because it was before she started to go on the road. And so
How'd you pay for it?
from selling our previous company, just bootstrapped the entire thing.
Yep.
Bootstrapped
Wow.
the entire thing. And we were so confident we could do it.
Yep.
And it was this irrational, entrepreneurial exuberance. And I remember, but we knew that we had to be pretty fastidious about the production process. And so I remember reading this book, Made Poorly in China, and all these like really interesting takeaways from it. And one of them I'll remember to this day is this cosmetics guy goes over to China and goes to visit his factory, and he takes a tour through the factory, and they're all wearing like the body, the Intel, microchip processor, like body suits, like perfect, no contamination here whatsoever. And, this guy goes through it and he's like, that's the most amazing thing. I had this perception of Chinese factories, and I just went through it and it was spotless and clean, and everyone's wearing these, hermetically sealed suits. And he gets out and he's like, oh, I left my notebook back in there on the warehouse floor. And he walks back into the room, and there are like 4 guys sitting around smoking a cigarette next to the cosmetics. And so I said, hey, look, we got to go do this. She's pregnant. I grabbed her brother who had just graduated from Texas Tech. I said, let's go to China. If you want to go travel China with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, let's go do this. So it was in December of 2011, and we jump on a plane and we go to China, and we literally like kind of recreate like the Laverne and Shirley, intro, where we're on either side of the factory, whatchamacallit, conveyor belt. The conveyor belt's like spitting out these flip-flops, and we're hovering over every single one, checking for the most minute detail.
Yeah, they're yours.
They're ours.
You're watching yours get
we paid for them. And so we said, okay, look, we're not going to let a single pair come through.
Yep.
That's defective. And we sat there, and I pulled off probably a couple hundred pairs, 200, 300, 400 pairs, maybe more. And my brother-in-law did too. And we stacked them in this box next to us. And every 30 minutes, somebody would come and take that box away and throw them in the garbage. And we sat there on the conveyor belt with no heat. I think we were both sick as dogs by the end of it, just shivering, watching each flip-flop go through. And by the end of 10 days, we got on a plane back here, and I remember looking at him, and like dead sick. And we were like, hey, look, thank you for doing this. We saved our company. Literally saved our company.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 2 months.
So how many did you pull off?
It ended up being thousands.
Really?
By the end of it.
Wow. So if you just trusted them, and then you would have gotten 20,000 of your 25,000 that were saleable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when we got back here, I was just looked at him, remember on the plane ride. I'm like, thank you for going with me. Like, literally, you just saved our business. We saved our business. Like, good on us. Pat on the shoulder, pat on the back. And we get back here in February. The flip-flops arrived from being shipped over, and we got a call from our customs agent and said, hey, just to let you know, your pairs have been flagged. Your flip-flops have been flagged for not having the proper made in China markings on them. We said, great. He said, you have 2 choices. One, they're at a warehouse in South Dallas. You can either pay the warehouse workers to remark all 25,000 pairs, which will probably take about 6 weeks to do, or you can bring your company. You can bring all your colleagues down. Colleagues, it's me and Lila.
But maybe your brother-in-law, but he may be out at this point.
Exactly. So you bring your colleagues down. You can do it yourselves. I said, okay. So we called all of our friends and family and said, look, like,
here's the deal.
Well, we have pizza and free beer.
It's amazing. And friendship.
So I don't know how many times we use pizza as like a lure in our business for people to come help us out. But so we went and we took our, like pack and play for our daughter into this warehouse in South Dallas, and we went and relabeled 25,000 pairs with made in China stickers on 2 different places. And I just remember one of her brother's friends opened the very first box, and we were all, starting to open our boxes too. And he held up the flip-flop and he said, are these supposed to look like this? And literally, if you held up the flip-flop, it took a 90-degree turn somewhere around the toes. And it was clearly one of the defective pairs that we had pulled off. And so we started opening the rest of the boxes, and all those pairs that we had taken out found their way back into the order.
Oh my gosh.
And when all was said and done, I think we counted 25,000 pairs was 40% of the order. Yeah, so it was 10,000 pairs were defective. And
so you pulled them off, they took them away, but they sent them to you anyways.
They put them right back in and
Oh
sent
my
them. We'd
gosh.
already paid for them. There was no recourse. And so it was just one of those skin your knee moments. And then to kind of compound, you should probably tell the story of this next piece.
We're a couple days away from.
Because it sounds like he might cry at this point.
Well, it gets worse if you can believe it.
No.
So we're a couple days away from launching, and I'm, or we had launched. Timeline's a blur.
About to launch.
And I see these Harimari hashtags on Instagram for a flash sale. But let me back up. We were debating what to do with these pairs.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't sell them, couldn't get them out into the wild. So we donated them to an organization that supposedly gets shoes to people in Central and South America that need them. And while it was a bummer that happened, we're like, okay, let's make lemonade out of lemons here.
Mm-hmm.
So we donated the pairs. And maybe 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I'm seeing these Harimari hashtag for flash sales. Well, it turns out this 501c3 did not take them to Central America. They ended up taking them to LA and selling them at a black market there for like $2 or $3 a pair. And that's what was popping up on social.
Before you've even
launched
your brand.
Yeah. That was fun.
Oh my gosh, keep going.
Yeah,
I'm just stunned at the moment, but yeah, just gosh.
So we were able to track down who had possession of the pairs and with his home address and his number and all that. And I called him and basically threatened him, got him to take it all down. Who knows where the pairs ended up?
Right.
Called that 501c3.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally ghosted us.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
And it turns out that they had similar issues with other brands.
Yeah,
much
obviously,
larger than us.
Most of the time, that's not the first time you do something like that.
No,
they've had a repeat.
There were class action lawsuits out from Minnetonka and all these other footwear brands.
Unbelievable.
Doing the same thing.
Wow.
We just didn't have the...
So that's how we started the brand.
Yeah. That was like the first 3 weeks of being in business.
But I think every single business owner, maybe the number one is resiliency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just going to get punched in the face, in the gut multiple times. And you just got to overcome. You overcame. So pick it up from there.
From there, it was just about selling the inventory we had. I mean, we really.
So you do finally launch. Whatever pairs are good, you do launch.
Yeah.
And are you in any retailers at that point, or is this going to be direct to consumer at that point?
Not yet. So we run two completely different sides of the business, which is how it works. And so I oversee wholesale.
Yeah.
So I got on the road and started going all over Texas.
Yeah.
St. Bernard's was the first store to pick us up, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then after my Texas loop, drove all the way to the East Coast and then back. And so by the end of August, and we also had, harimari.com as well.
Yep.
And so by the end of August, I think we had 42 retailers. So we launched in March. End of August, we had 42.
Way to go.
So then we took that quote unquote success and went to our first trade show, which was outdoor retailer in Park City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
I've never been to that show, but I'm dying to go to it just because I love all that stuff.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet.
And so,
Take him.
Yeah.
I'll go with
Yeah.
you.
Come
I'll
with
be a
us
brand
next time.
ambassador next
Yeah,
time.
we'd love that. So that's what I did on my end. Was really just kicking doors in to get the product placed.
Yep.
And sell these, 15,000 pairs that we owned.
Awesome.
You launched the business 2011, essentially.
Spring 2012.
Okay. What do you look like today?
Yeah. Well, we've come a long way since 2012. Today we're in, coverage in 49 states, about 1,000 stores. We have distribution in Mexico, Bahamas, Canada, UAE, some other crazy countries that we just kind of randomly have distribution points in. We have a really healthy online business. It's about half and half in terms of where our revenue variation is.
Cool.
We kicked off right before COVID hit. We started our own store on Amazon and kicked everybody else that was selling on Amazon off. And that's been a really nice piece of our business in terms of growth. And then kind of our fourth distribution avenue is we have a corporate customization piece of our business. So we take our flip-flops and we put True North's logo on them for all your VIP customers and employees. Shameless plug number 2.
That's okay. That's all right.
That was a great sale. You looked him straight in the eye. And
I'm nodding. I'm buying.
In fact, I can take that credit card right now if you'd like it. If you have it in your back pocket.
So it's we have expanded quite a bit. We've gone from me and Lila. We have depending on the time of year, about 20 team members here. We have a office slash a warehouse in we call it Deep Park. It's right near Fair Park, but right near Deep Ellum on Haskell Avenue, and also a small store there. And it's funny, we look at kind of now where we are. We're on the kind of the precipice of a pretty large scale event, and we've in this neophyte phase the past couple of years. We were talking just before the podcast, and we were laughing because we were listening to your conversation with Russell Moon again on the way here, and I had met with him 5 or 6 years ago, and I remember I was talking to him about investing in Harimari, and he was telling me, look, I just got to tell you, like, there's this, it's really tough because you're at this certain range, and you're about to go through this kind of what we call the no man's land, where it's just like kind of this $3 to $5 million top line revenue mark. And he had found that one of the hardest things is navigating that space, and that's where most businesses falter. And because you're kind of figuring yourself out, but you're really figuring out internally what your team looks like.
Right.
And we were laughing, and I was telling Lila the story too, because I don't think I've ever told you that. I was like, yeah, but for us, it's been a lot larger than $5 million in terms of navigating this really tough space. So we're very much kind of in that phase where we're leaving behind kind of some of the things we love about a small business.
Yeah.
And it's been really tough and challenging to now step into something that looks more scalable. And that's across the board, everything from product to distribution to fulfillment in a warehouse to just our team and our people, us and how we manage.
Yeah.
I mean, we were even laughing because, our approach is very egalitarian, right? Everyone's on, the same level, same playing field. And we looked up, a year ago, and like, we can't do this anymore. Like, we've got to start creating structure.
Right.
And we're very aware and cognizant of that need for structure. But it's one thing to be aware of it, and the next thing to implement it.
For sure.
That is really tough.
So one of the things we talk about at True North is we built this pre-transaction planning offering, and we have 4 pillars. And the 4 pillars are really, they're 2 personal pillars that focus on sort of the personal side of your situation. And then there's 2 business pillars. The 2 personal pillars, one is coaching. So it's kind of like, let's really think through what life post-transaction looks like and what you're going to do for 16 hours a day, for the next 30 years or 40 years when you sell this business and you lose your identity and everything you've been working on. And then there's a wealth planning pillar, which that's what we do every day, but it's, it's estate planning and tax strategy and philanthropy and charitable giving and all those things that you should think about before a transaction. Then on the business side, one of the things that the third pillar is all around what you're talking about, which is how do we get to a place of scale? So we talked about EOS a few minutes ago, but EOS is one of those systems that you can begin to plug in that creates some structure. And so that's another pillar that we focus on, is how do we get your business how do we help it grow up a little bit, and not that you're not grown up, but just how do you mature, right? And we've had to do that at True North as well. And then the 4th pillar is all around valuation and multiples and maximizing a potential valuation at exit. Yep. And we don't do all of that work. We partner with experts in those areas, with the exception of the wealth piece, because that's what we do. But you're very much in that zone now where you're, clearly you have something. It's exciting. It's growing. It's bigger. It's getting bigger. You can see the potential. And so now you've got to come back and put some of these things in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you finding is, I'd love an answer from both of you. I'll let y'all figure out who goes first. What's the most difficult part of the process to break through to this next level?
I think for us, or I would say it's finding talent and making it work here. And I say that because we're kind of an anomaly here in Dallas, right? In the brand space, there's not too many brands similar to what we're doing here in Dallas. So finding talent that's been there, done that here in Dallas is kind of a challenge.
Yep.
And so in this, period where we're quote unquote growing up from where we've been to where we're headed, I'm really proud of what we've been able to achieve to date. And it's really been with kids out of college and just
Right.
a whole lot of hustle and grit.
Yeah.
And that's worked up to date, but we're
Correct.
now to the point where we need talent,
Correct.
Yeah.
real talent. And so that would be my response
Mm-hmm.
is, where are they? Are they here in Dallas?
Yeah.
Are
Which
they
gets
I don't know.
a little bit
Call me.
scary. It's
Yeah.
new.
Yeah,
New things are scary. Generally more expensive
exactly.
on the front end,
Mm-hmm.
but mistakes are really costly.
Yep.
So it's all those growing pains.
That's right.
And then makes me think of the old, slow to hire, quick to fire. Probably when you make some of those decisions, you got to probably assess pretty quickly whether that was the right hire or not. What would
Right.
you say?
I have to agree. I mean, not to be boring, so I want to give you a different answer here, but it's people.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And it comes down to just finding really good people. And I feel like that, we're being transparent and honest. And I know that's a big piece of sitting down here and discussing this is we've made some pretty impactful decisions that have not been good in terms of talent. I mean, we have paid people who we thought could help take us that next level 2 or 3 different times, and have been very disappointed in the results. And and I think that part of that then makes us a little bit gun shy
For sure.
about how to then come back to the table. And I think that we always kind of approach, and you said it perfectly earlier, it's like a batting average. Like you just got to keep swinging.
Yeah.
And we know that there are great people out there. We also know that we're in historically probably like a pretty tough, tight labor market as labor markets go.
Right.
And so even finding people that are perfect for the position, let alone here in Dallas, is just incredibly tough. And recruiting people to Dallas from
Mm-hmm.
the natural places where our business arenas are focused.
Hawaii,
Yeah,
California,
New York,
Florida.
Yeah, Florida. It's really tough to pull people from the coast. In fact, a lot of our, a good piece of our product team has been based in California since day one.
Yeah.
Because we can't convince them to move to Dallas.
And the product team probably works there. But if you're looking, I would imagine you're looking for management and leadership, that probably needs to be here.
100%.
Yep.
So one of the things that I'll share with you guys that may be helpful, it's certainly something that I think we've seen as we've tried to hire people, is you guys have a vision. I think a clear vision of where you're going, and because it's a very established brand, but it's still a new up and coming brand. A lot of times people can't see the vision. Like they won't buy the vision.
Yeah.
They'll only buy data and results. And so what I would say is the more you keep, the more you make progress towards that vision and the more data there is to share with people, the more people will get on your bandwagon, and the easier it will be to recruit and hire. It's just hard in the beginning because you guys are the visionaries. You have the vision. A lot of people, they're going to join one of these other brands that's been established for 30 or 40 years and it's predictable and I'm going to have a job and there's no risk but you'll attract the right people because you need people who are visionaries with you and are risk takers with you. And we just as a simple example with True North, for a long time we tried to recruit from within the brokerage industry. And the brokerage industry doesn't really get us because we're different. And Mark and I beat our heads against the wall for years and years and years because we could not get people to opt in. And then, over time, as you have more success, people are like, oh, I see it. So it will get easier, but you just keep, like you said, you just keep swinging.
And you're breaking through new barriers, but each hire and or fire or someone who leaves, you are getting smarter.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't feel like it. Maybe you call Russell again.
Do you guys
get ready?
Do you guys have core values? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then do you use those when you're recruiting and hiring and as a filter for the type of people you want?
We do, and I feel like that's even like more, not to sit down on the psychologist chair here for you. But that's what makes, I think, the past 3 or 4 years in our hiring attempts even more frustrating.
Correct, because you thought you're running the right play, so to speak.
We're running the right play, and the play didn't work.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then it really has an effect on like, is it us? Are we doing something wrong? Or and it's just tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we know we got to keep swinging, and we know we got to find the right people, and it will come. but it's a really tough landscape right now to navigate for not just us. I mean, I know a lot of businesses, so we take solace in the fact that this is just part of it, right? And if I could have, there would be no one else I'd rather have in my foxhole than this woman sitting next to me. So I mean,
awesome.
that is, and I'll tell you, like, we often say, like, I don't know how CEOs, I don't know how people start their own businesses by themselves. I really don't, because we come home at night, and I remember when we first started this business, we're like, we're never going to discuss business at home. And it lasted for 2 days, and then we talk about it all the time. Right?
Yeah.
There's no wall between business and personal life, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about all of our issues, all of our problems, and we have somebody to bounce ideas off us. We have a natural soundboard, and who knows the business just as well as the other person.
Yeah.
Right? And it's incredible because we're there for each other. And like you all said, I mean, somehow we're still married and we still really like each other, and through all of this. But the fact that we're doing it together is something that, I'm super grateful and we feel super blessed for.
That's awesome. So how many, so you sold 15,000 pairs in that first year, right? How many units are you going to sell this year?
I think we're up to like almost 250, 300,000, something like that.
Flip-flops or the whole, everything?
Flip-flops.
Flip-flops. So.
Yeah. We just started boots, and slippers about 2 years ago.
That boot right there.
So this is a relatively new venture, and it's funny enough, it's like starting a new business almost.
Yeah.
You expect that it will have 100% adoption by, your flip-flop wearers. And really what I've learned in one of the takeaways from starting this business is, especially guys, I mean, we're about 60-40 in favor of men and our customers. Guys love to know one brand for one thing, and we'll go and we'll buy a lot of that one thing at one time, but we don't really want to buy, that brand for more than one thing.
Yeah, interesting.
And so it's really trying to educate our audience on, the comfort of our flip-flops, comfort of our boots, comfort of our slippers. But guys will go buy, their socks from one place, their underwear from one place, their sunglasses from one place, their golf shoes from another place. I mean, it's just, we're creatures of habit.
Tend to be pretty simple people.
Yes, we are. All meatheads.
All right. So let's, from here, give us a little picture of the vision and where you guys go from here. Obviously we've launched some new things. How do you guys think about the next 5 to 10 years? Well,
there's so many different ways I could go in answering that. I think my answer, if you'd asked me that 5 years ago, would be the same as it is today. In that we want, when people think of who makes the best footwear, the best flip-flop, we want it to be Harimari. We really want Harimari to be a household name. And I think we've laid an incredible foundation and we're on our way.
Yeah.
And it's just continuing to pursue that goal.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the political thing, what started this, or what a lot kind of used as a tool to start this. I mean, I think if we're really being honest with ourselves, we're still a discovery brand 10 years in, and that's great. There's a lot of positive things about that. We always say that I think if you went maybe somewhere outside of Dallas, we'd be lucky if 1 in 100 people knew what Harimari was. And I think even when we find that one person, they think we're based in Hawaii or California for all the reasons you all know, flip-flops.
Yep.
We have a lot of work to do. I mean, there's so much runway in front of us and so much scale opportunity in front of us, and we just have to go seize it. And it's tough because we're not patient people by nature, and we constantly have to remind each other to be patient and allow the company to grow the way it should grow versus trying to cut corners.
Yeah.
And and we've seen a lot of brands and a lot of businesses really try to grow artificially. And that's just not, we've tested ourselves and have had a lot of setbacks because of it. We found if we're patient and we grow the right way and we do, kind of hit the fundamentals, I think that's really a big piece of this.
Jeremy, both those things so well said. That foundation just feels like it takes longer and longer, and you feel like after 10 years you ought to have it. You do, but then typically if you do the right thing long enough, all of a sudden that spotlight gets bright, and all of a sudden then you're kind of exponential. But if you cut those corners, and if you get tired of that pain, I think Scott will say sitting in that pain a little bit, if you sit in there for a little bit and you learn these lessons, but you don't cut corners, then the sky's the limit.
Sure.
If we do, as you all well know, which you're not, then those are the brands that fade away.
Yeah.
Sure.
You hear all the time,
They
like
don't make it through that next phase that Russell was talking about.
you hear all the time, the 25-year overnight success.
Exactly.
so-
Right.
Because it's, you're just going along, grinding, and then all of a sudden, like there's the hockey stick, and it happens, but it only happens because of all the pain and all the frustration and all the
Consistency.
difficulty and all the challenges, because all those things build a solid foundation,
That's right.
right? Because you're not going to make the same mistake.
Yeah.
You might make it twice, but you're not going to make it 5 times.
Yeah.
You're going to learn, and then you're going to correct, and then you're going to learn, and you're going to correct, and little by little, that foundation gets stronger, and you build a really solid company, and that's a worthwhile endeavor. It's exciting.
For our space too, didn't think we realized how long it took to actually build a footwear brand,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you look at our competitors, I mean, they started in the 70s and 80s,
Right.
right? And
There's
so
a
we're
reason.
Yeah, we're 11 years in. So
Yeah.
while we're pumped about where we've gotten to date, like we're a baby in the
Yes.
brand space.
Yes.
And it's a noisy world out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It
So
just takes time,
Yeah.
you know?
it does. And consistency.
We touched on having each other to do this with, which I think is super helpful. Because I think if she was doing this alone, or I was doing this alone, we would. Be
You wouldn't have
mad.
made it 11 years.
No. It is painful. I mean, you all know it. I mean, it literally is being in a war where you're fighting on different fronts on a daily basis.
Mhm.
You think you're fighting these fronts when you walk into the office in the morning, and end up being 3 totally different fronts.
Mhm.
Yeah, so well said.
And I'll say that having your significant other is one thing, and I know that this might make it on the cutting room floor, but having faith is another piece of this that I'd be remiss if it didn't mention, because there have been so many points where it's like there are 2 or 3 specifically where we'll wake up. There's a morning 6 years ago. I woke up in the morning like, how are we going to make payroll today?
Yep.
Yeah.
How are we going to do it? And not even paying us. Like how are we going to pay other people today?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I prayed for the first time in probably 10 years.
Mm.
And I just said, like, God, I don't know, what the plan is here, but love to know that you're with us if this is the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty selfish prayer, pretty selfish ask. And I came to the office that morning, in our same office we're in right now. And 9:00 in the morning, a tour group comes in a white van, and they walk in the front door, and our warehouse manager comes and grabs me. He says, "Hey, there's a tour group here, and they'd love to talk to you." I was like, "This is odd."
The last thing I need today. Yeah, that's what you're
I'm trying to
thinking.
figure out payroll, man.
I got to pay people. Got no patience for a tour.
And that's literally how I felt. And I said, okay. And I walked out there, and there was a group of 5 individuals, and they were from out of town. They come to a local church, and they were basically spreading out, and they were praying with individuals and businesses. And they had come to Harimari because our location sits on the site of an old church.
Mm-hmm.
And they pulled out this MapQuest printout. They said, "Is there a church here?" That was their ask. Is there a church here? No, this is it's a flip-flop business. And they said, "Oh, well, this map has a church where your location is." I was like, "Oh, that's odd." And I still didn't connect the two. By the way, it didn't. The flashbang didn't go off yet.
You're still thinking about
I'm
payroll.
I'm still thinking
Well,
about
yeah,
payroll.
yeah.
And so finally they said, "Well, okay, well, yeah, that's unfortunate, but can you give us a tour?" And I was like, "Sure." And we walked, toured the entire place. And they said, finally, like, can we pray with you? And it was a moment too, because I've never been a person of outward faith with other people, or with even with my wife or family, and especially not with our colleagues working at Harimari.
Mm-hmm.
We have an open floor plan.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone can see everything. Everyone can hear everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, in my mind, this is the response to my prayer.
Yeah.
This was, are you going to be a man? And are you going to respond like a man of faith? Or are you going to respond like a coward and back away and not step up and pray with these people in front of everybody? And it sounds like a pretty trivial moment now.
No, it doesn't.
But we held hands, and the 5 of us prayed over our business. And I'll tell you, from that day on, this has been a just as much as a faith-based journey as it has been a professional and business journey. And that's something that I can tell you that I never had any of my previous professional experiences. And it's brought us closer together as a family. It's brought us, closer in our faith. And certainly it's been a stalwart in terms of getting us through.
So do you want to hear how we made payroll that
That's
time?
awesome.
100% I do.
Yeah.
At that exact same moment, there was a Joanna Gaines, the weekend before. Joanna Gaines was spotted wearing Harimaris,
Come on.
and she'd been wearing them every other season or episode, for the past few seasons. And so women were going online, like, question, hey, what flip-flops is Joanna Gaines wearing? And so because of that, it prompted People Mag, InStyle, like, real simple, like you name all the publications to write stories on Joanna and her flip-flops. So guess what? Sales spiked on harimari.com, Nordstrom.com, Zappos.com. That's how we made payroll that week.
Wow.
Praise God.
Yeah, that's amazing.
If you're listening and watching this, Jeremy and Lila, grateful for the courage to be transparent. I would be remiss not to say one of my favorite quotes of all time. C.S. Lewis says, "Pain is God's megaphone to awaken a deaf soul." I'm going to cry, and I am crying. I hope this has inspired you as a business owner that the joy absolutely is in the journey. We think it's always simply at the exit. It's not. The exit is just another step in the growth process. Thank you for joining us, Jeremy and Lila. Bless you guys. Wish you all the best.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.